Lori, certified relationship coach, Christian sex educator, empty nester, and happy jet skiing wife who believes God's design for sex in marriage is too good to stay quiet about.
And I'm Katieann, senior pastor, wife, mom to 4 kiddos, and I always love having some fun, even when we're diving into the deep and holy conversations about marriage and sex.
So, welcome to the Sexual Wholeness Revival Podcast. Welcome back to the Sexual Wholeness Revival Podcast. We are so glad that you joined us today. And hey, as I'm recording this, the holidays are coming. We are going to be in the thick of it. And I know that that affects everybody's daily life. And sometimes when you have extra stress, things are going on, it's hard to stay on top of good habits. You have so many extra things that you need to do, places to go. And on top of just the regular good habits you need to have, it seems like that the intimacy habits are the ones that fall first.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Josh and I have been married for 20 years,
Oh,
and
awesome.
with 4 kids and a busy sports and school schedule, it is the first thing through holidays that seems to gets pushed to the back burner oftentimes. So why do you think it is healthy intimacy is the first thing to go when you're extra busy though, Mary? I mean, I obviously it's a very common thing, but why do you think it's the first thing to go?
I think we probably don't put the priority on it. We don't know. It's like the invisible glue that holds everything together. Of course, very much second to God and our faith in Him and pressing into Him. But in our married life, that place of intimacy, we count on it working even if we don't see it, even if we're not being proactive. Now, the good news is if you, get into some busy habits and you let it slide, if you've had some strong habits, then that quite possibly could carry over until you get back to that healthy place again. But just having a heads up, this year during the holidays or this year during the sports season, what could we do to be proactive to keep that healthy intimacy habit going? That would be what I really want to focus on today.
Yeah, I think too, if I can add,
Yeah.
a lot of people think it needs to be a date night out of the house too,
Mm.
but practically speaking, learning to just prioritize time set aside, whether it's in the other room or whatever, it doesn't, I think we sometimes overcomplicate
Sure.
staying connected, but it doesn't have to be complicated.
That's right. And that's a part of finding your rhythm and finding the things that are most meaningful to your spouse and incorporating them ongoing. Right. If the date night can't happen, even if you wanted to, even though it's in your thoughts, still finding the ways to stay connected. So today we're going to answer the question, what's a checklist so that you know that you're practicing healthy intimacy habits? I mean, our podcast is the Sexual Wholeness Revival. And how do we know that wholeness is happening in our marriage? In an emphasis on intimacy. So I have a list of 5 things that you can continue to go back to and check. But before I get to that list, I have a little story, and this is what baking taught me about sex. I've already said what jet skiing taught me about sex, but here's another one. And truth be told, because this is my lane, almost something every day teaches me about sex. But this is a great story when I was a kid and making Christmas cookies with my mom. And she was so much fun. And like my best friend, we really did a lot together, but we would get silly. Oh, it didn't take any time at all. And we're just laughing. So here we are. We've got all the ingredients set out on the kitchen table and telling stories and laughing while we're measuring. We're taking turns who's measuring what ingredient, all of that, stir it all up, maybe not realizing exactly what the batter is looking like at that moment. And then plop, plop, plop those spoonfuls on the baking sheet, set the timer, get back to whatever fun we were having. Ding, ding goes the timer, pull out the cookies, and oh no, it is one big cookie sheet and there's no more individual cookies. And we look at each other, and thankfully we had that relationship where we laughed instead of getting angry, but we're like, what happened? What happened to these? They used to be cookies, or in our mind, they were going to be cookies. And after it cooled a little bit and we took a sample, it tasted good. So like, okay, that's a saving grace. But my mom was checking over the recipe and she realized we had doubled the butter. And thankfully we didn't double the flour, because I think we would have had to throw out the whole batch if we'd done that. But this way, literally with the cookie crumbled, we turned it into topping for ice cream sundaes. And that was
That's perfect.
win-win-win. Actually, yeah. I mean, some people might try to do that intentionally to make those crumbles. We did it accidentally. But the way this makes me think about sex is that when you're trying, when you're learning new things, you have these lists of things. Oh, I should be doing this, to realize, hey, we're going to mess up. We're going to forget something. I mean, maybe you're going to double up something. I don't know how that works. But just to know that you can keep on going, even though it's a process, it's not an instant. We've got all of this figured out. It is still going to work for you. And there's a passage of scripture. This is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7. And I mean, chapter 4 has so many valuable daily life points. But when you get to verse 7, it's talking about wisdom and to pursue wisdom and to pursue understanding. So that is where my focus is. We are going to unpack these specific individual things to help you with your sex life in marriage, and you're pursuing that actively. It's not instant, but you can still be active while we are pursuing it.
Yeah. And I am all about a good checklist. I have checklists at home. I have a checklist here in my office for various different things. So it can be very helpful to have a checklist. But why do you think it's so helpful to stay on track?
Well, as we said earlier, because intimacy could be one of the number one things to be overlooked, then we have to be extra proactive. Also, because intimacy is one of those things that has been taboo, that has been misrepresented, we are putting extra attention to sort of compensate for the deficit that many couples have been functioning with. And you're not seeing these checklists just everywhere, I mean,
Right.
hey, you might be on Facebook and they might give you all kinds of tips, but having a healthy sex life is not always commonly presented. And that's why I wanted to give some really practical things that couples could do, and a self-check. Hey, how are we doing in this area? How are we doing in this area? So a list like this should give you a starting place, and then you can always reassess, what do we need more of? What do we need less of? Thinking about those ingredients that go into a happy, healthy sex life. Are you
That's
ready for
great.
number one?
Yeah. Let's go
Here
for it.
we go. The list. Number one, this is a sign that you have a healthy sex life, healthy intimacy habits. You can talk about sex even when it's awkward. Now, I know it's a tough one that I started with. I need you to embrace this because we are not saying perfection with talking about sex. We're saying you are transitioning. Hey, maybe at one point you were at the never end of talking about sex. Oh, it's just so out there we can't even begin. You may have progressed to it's awkward, but we're still doing it. We're still talking about it. And you might be aiming towards this place of openness where you can talk about it anytime, anywhere, respectfully. That would be a goal. And also to keep in mind that this is not just check a box. Now, I know I said it's a
Right.
checklist, but it's not just, oh, we have to talk about it because we're supposed to. Have the goal in mind of connection. The reason we want healthy sex life is it grows our connection. It grows the
Right.
honesty in your relationship, which is going to make everything better. So even if it is a stressful time with holidays or company or the sports schedules, then your connection will hold you close and pull you through some of those stressful times.
Yeah. And being able to talk about it is super important because trust is needed
Ah,
for healthy intimacy, and you can't have trust if you're not telling the truth. And so when we look at it through the lenses of building trust and having
yes.
trust for intimacy, being able to talk about it, even if it feels awkward to start out with, becomes vitally important in growing in trust with one another. And the more trust you build, the better everything else gets. Way
Amen.
better.
Amen. There's our next billboard.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, you're aware of disconnection and you're addressing it. Okay, this is not any easier than the first one, but it's important. So, what does it look like to be aware of disconnection? You have acknowledged there were some things in your past that interfered with your attitude towards sex. And I don't know what that is for each person. Just because you live in a fallen world, just because you live in a church community that has avoided the topic of sex, I am pretty
Right.
sure you have some past issues. So knowing that there were things in your past that influenced you, that's a part of this awareness. Also, recognizing when things feel off. And that means we do work towards connection, but something's not quite right now. And you never know. Your spouse may have just gotten news at work and they are pulling back, not because of you, but because of something else. And they haven't had the right time to tell you yet. Maybe they're not even intentionally keeping a secret, but something feels off. That's a heads up. And you get to use that as a helpful way to keep your connection. So if you recognize that it feels off, then that's good. That means you are working towards this. As I said, we don't want to be avoiding. Um, we don't want to say, I'm not going to do anything if my spouse isn't going to do anything, because we know that each person is responsible. And some of the things you might be doing to help your awareness is listening to podcasts just like this. There are
Yeah.
certainly some wonderful books available now, maybe not 10, 15, 20 years ago, but now there are, and getting professional help whenever you need it. So those are ways that you can begin to address the disconnection. And this can be an emotional disconnection or certainly a sexual disconnection. Any of those
Yeah.
things together are going to impact your sex life.
Yeah. And
Number,
this is, oh,
no,
sorry.
go.
This is where the five love languages get really helpful too. And so for my husband and I, when we've been really busy, sometimes I'll look at him and I say, I feel disconnected. Do you? And he says, yeah, I do. And so then we start utilizing the tools in our tool belt, like the love languages,
Yes.
quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, unexpected gifts, and physical touch.
Mm.
And we know what each other's love languages are. So then it just is a matter of connecting intentionally with those tools, with that love
Yes.
language. And so sometimes all it takes is us looking at each other going, I feel disconnected. Do you? And he goes, yeah, I do. Okay. We have things that we can use to do something about it. So being aware and speaking to it is super, super helpful.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you guys have that system and that you've made it work for you. That is fantastic. Number three, you have a plan for intimacy. Now, I get a lot of pushback from my couples when I tell them an option is to schedule their intimacy, and they'll be like, then it's not spontaneous. And I'm thinking, hey, well, at least it happens. You schedule
Hmm.
other things that are really important. So being able to schedule, and maybe it's just blocking out a certain time during the week, during the weekend that you know is going to fit. It honors each other. But the having a
Yeah.
plan is that being proactive, and it means you're not just hoping, I hope something will work out, but you are
Right.
being intentional. And yes, it can include date nights and getaways. Those are amazing, but they might not happen with your schedule. So that's why we get a whole list of things that are a part of your intimacy plan. It might be trying new intimate activities. So some couples are in the process of, what do we like to do in bed together? What do we like to do outside of bed together? And just trying something new gives a burst of energy and fresh life and excitement and adventure to your sex life. And that is something, if you have a block of time, then you're able to make that happen. That's very intentional. On the flip side of that, if there are times, and certainly we are focusing on stress and holidays, that you need to adjust to one another because of these changes, then that is a beautiful way to show love. Like, this next week's going to be crazy. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
you, but let's just plan for next week. And we will still keep each other as our focus. And that is one of the ways to stay on track. And that's our goal with our talk in this episode is, how do you stay on track even when there's crazy, whether it's holidays or sports season, whatever is going on. Being proactive with a plan is going to help you to stay on track.
Trying to add my 2 cents
I love it. Go for it.
when it comes to having a plan for intimacy too. I can just hear the moms of littles going, how can
Mm,
you plan when there's toddlers and elementary age kids in the house? And one of the things my husband and I did is from a very young age, we told our children it's mommy and daddy time. We
yeah.
don't want to see you and we don't want to hear you if you've done any loving on purpose stuff with your kids. And so we'd tell them you can be in the great room or the playroom. I don't want to see you and I don't want to hear you. Our oldest was probably 5 or 6 when we started that. And
Nice.
of course, we're not letting our kids run around with knives or anything like that. But we did from a very early age even model to our kids the priority of our connection
Mm,
with each other. And so we'd have this time set aside when we couldn't afford date nights, we couldn't afford to go out, where we would tell our kids it's mommy and daddy's time. And sometimes we'd sit out in the kitchen and play cards while our kids watched a show, and we
yeah,
would just laugh and connect. And that would eventually lead to a stronger connection in the bedroom as
sure.
well. And so even if you have little kids, there is a way to prioritize it. And honestly, your kids should be seeing you prioritize your relationship with your
Mm,
spouse.
Mm.
They need to see that. They're not the most important person in the relationship. Oh no, I said it. No, they aren't. And they need to be, that needs to be modeled to them because that's healthy.
I love that. And it made me think I keep one of my grandsons one day a week. And my husband is still here in the morning when we pick him up and we have breakfast together, the three of us. And then my husband would go off to work and he would kiss me goodbye. And I think I was holding my grandson and he was there close, of course, when my husband kissed me. And then my grandson just turns his face towards him in this beautiful innocence, like me. He didn't say that, but he was just
Oh,
beaming. And so then my husband gives him a kiss. And I'm like, oh, this is how it's done. This is how we set the
yeah.
tone for love because you could feel that. And my grandson was appreciating it. He was being drawn and attracted to it. So it was a special moment for me. All right, I've got number
That's
4
awesome.
ready to go. You're being powerful in your relationship. Now, I know that word powerful has many meanings, and I want to just give some nuggets about that. This means you're being responsible for yourself. That means you're practicing self-control. That means you are being aware of how you affect others. What is the wake that you are leaving? Being powerful is in all aspects. It's not just how are you showing up in the bedroom. It's thinking about your relationship at large because your intimacy, your sex life is totally connected to every other area of your relationship. This is, as we often say, spirit, soul, and body. And we need you to be powerful in all of those areas so that you are being the best version of yourself, which creates safety and an invitation for your spouse to be the best version of themselves. Katieann, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you have to think about how hard it is to hug a porcupine. And if that's, if you've had a rough time, you might have a mess to clean up with your spouse. And
Mm.
I'm very, very just amazed at my husband's ability to love me well when I'm at my ugliest. And
Ah,
and that's really so important that even if your spouse is not at their best, our goal is that our love is turned on towards them and nothing
yes,
they could do could turn it off because we're in charge of it. So that self-control goes both ways. It
mm,
goes both ways in protecting intimacy. And you have as much, we have as much disrespect in our relationship as we allow. And
for
so
sure.
all of a sudden, when you guys are working, you begin to work towards the same goal of connection and intimacy. These things become more intentional as you realize how much I'm affecting what I'm bringing to this relationship.
Yeah, yeah. We could say so much more about that, and we
So much.
will in future episodes. Number 5, you're choosing God's way, His better way, that is free of shame and full of joy. Now, you might not instantly be free of shame and instantly be full of joy, but that's your goal. That is your focus. That is your target. That is your motivation to be, the way that I have viewed sex in the past wasn't God's way. It was a mixture of what culture was saying, what religious community was saying, and I know that it did not measure up to this beautiful, wonderful way that God had it. So I'm making a choice. It's like a path. You're walking left, then you're walking right. So you're choosing daily to want God's way, to pursue God's way. And we know that you're walking it out, even if the mess ups happen. Those cookies with the extra butter, the mess up
Yeah.
happening. You're believing God's good is better than what you've known. It's a walk of faith. It's a walk of faith to have a godly sex life because it's something different than what you've experienced it before. And you are inviting God into your intimacy. When you choose His better way, it includes inviting Him. You might have prayer before you have intimacy. You might just incorporate at any time that you're praying. And God, help us stay connected. Help us to enjoy one another and have fun even in our sex life. All of those things will invite God in and will begin to realign you with God's design. It's that process, and
Yeah.
it's what's going to be a sweet spot for you.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to realize if the goal is perfection, you're never going to be happy.
Uh,
The goal shouldn't ever be perfection. It should be presence. And being present, that means being present in the good and the bad, the highs and the low, fighting for connection no matter what happens. That is my goal. And so if perfection is hard for you, you got to learn to surrender that for sure. But Mary, I'm super curious. This is such a great checklist. I love all five of these, but which one do you think couples struggle with the most?
oh boy. I know it's unique to each couple, whether the message of shame has been so strong and they can't imagine that God had it another way. Talking about sex, that's probably where I'm going to land because that's how I end up meeting couples when things have fallen apart so bad that they can't even talk about it. And I did list it first because I know that that is a sign. If you have crossed that bridge and the words are just now coming out of your mouth to be able to talk about sex, I think that's critical and probably where most couples land with it. Let me give you guys some encouragement to go back over the list, and we will definitely put it in the show notes so you can check on that and just self-assess. Which ones do I need more of? Which ones are we doing well? Because, hey, we got to celebrate every win with that. And what you might not know is that we were actually giving a recap of our gifts acronym that the Sexual Wholeness Revival Podcast is based on because we believe that sex in marriage is a gift from God. And the G stands for good, the I stands for intimate, the F stands for fierce, the T stands for timeless, the S stands for sacred. And so we were covering some of these principles. We were giving you a vision for what sexual wholeness can look like in marriage. Certainly, if you're curious, you can go back to some previous episodes where we have spent an entire episode on just one of these. But if you want something right now that's going to help you, I would love to get in your hands my free quiz. It's called What's My Intimacy Type? And it may be a puzzle to you because you haven't thought about it that specifically. So there's 10 questions and your responses will put you into a category and then you're able to get some immediate tips. So you can find that on my website, limitlessintimacy.com. I will put the link in the notes here and I'm just going to guarantee you that will jumpstart your awareness.
Yeah, and just as a friendly reminder, if you feel like there isn't anything on this checklist that you are doing well,
Mm,
not to worry. Everybody has to start somewhere.
yes.
Everybody starts somewhere. And sometimes it looks like from scratch. And this is your chance. This is your chance to do a different way.
Awesome.
Until next time, let's bring back wholeness.